This is Jill. Her dream is to become a top-tier hunter and buy a beautiful home. But there is a catch. She has to follow these 3 rules. She can only earn money from hunting, crafting, and gathering natural resources from the forest. She can only sleep outdoors, away from the cities. If she falls in battle, she loses all her money but keeps her equipment. To make it even tougher, survival mode and master difficulty are enabled. Jill starts at level 1 in Riverwood with no money or equipment, having just left her farmer family a few days ago. She promised to return someday, but for now she has a dream to chase and skills to master. Jill began her adventure with basic necessities in mind, a place to sleep and meals to eat. Preferring the wilderness over cities, she dreamed of nights under starry skies, beside a flowing river, warmed by a crackling campfire. This was the life of a hunter she had always imagined. To set up a campfire, Jill needed firewood and leather. She also wanted to craft a fishing rod to catch fish, since hunting animals in the forest would be impossible without proper weapons. Her next goals were to obtain a dagger and a bow. Jill had to find a way to cut wood, which was crucial for both crafting and selling. Although she had no axe at the moment, she was determined to get one. She found a beautiful spot near the river and an axe to borrow. Coming from a farming family, Jill was no stranger to hard work, so cutting wood would be manageable despite her small size. After a few hours of hard work, she collected 30 pieces of firewood and returned the axe to its rightful place. Although carrying the wood was tough, she reached the nearest trader and sold it for some money. The price wasn't great, but it was a start. Jill decided to pick herbs and flowers for extra income and check the river for fish. The place was stunning. The river, waterfall and surroundings were breathtaking. Despite the cold water, Jill took a refreshing bath. She cut fish with her bare hands and found more flowers. She heard a strange noise and wondered if it came from a plant she could sell. Soon, Jill heard a pack of wolves nearby. With no way to defend herself, she jumped back into the water and escaped. While wolf leather sounded tempting, it was too dangerous. Instead, she focused on catching more fish. She successfully caught several jumping salmon, even though it was a difficult task without bare claws. With the money she earned, Jill planned to buy an iron ingot and leather to craft a campfire and fishing rod. She still needed a hunting bow, steel dagger and iron arrows to be a true hunter. For now, she looked for herbs and a place to use her rod. She found a good spot by the river. Later, while wandering, Jill unexpectedly spotted a deer on her path. Unfortunately, she had no bow to hunt it. As she stepped closer, wolves appeared and attacked the deer. Despite her fear, Jill pressed on, drawn by the need for the deer's skin, and edged closer to the scene. That was all she needed for the day. She went to the inn to purchase some salt for cooking. After leaving the cozy inn, Jill recalled seeing a pot in the trader's house. She prepared a tempting venison chop and cooked other meals. Jill enjoyed her meal in nature, surrounded by the soothing sounds of the river, forest, and mountains. After a long day, Jill felt that the freshly cooked salmon had given her strength for the next set of activities. Knowing she needed a dagger for the following day's forest exploration, she chopped more wood to earn money. She kept the axe this time and left payment for the owner in a barrel. After some hard work, she earned enough to buy a dagger and a pickaxe. The day had been tough, but the effort paid off. The dagger would be useful in the forest. Jill found a spot to build a campfire. The cold night was warmed by the fire as she looked up at the starry sky, cherishing the moment in silence before finally resting. Jill set out early, deciding to head west and circle around the lake. She felt confident with her knife in hand, believing it would be enough to handle any threats, including the wolves she might encounter. As she traveled, the sound of a distant pack of wolves reached her ears. When the wolves attacked, Jill used their fear of water to her advantage. After the confrontation, she gathered the valuable wolf leather from their carcasses. Continuing her journey, Jill spotted a fox darting through the underbrush. Swiftly, she chased it down and with a precise strike from her dagger, secured the fox. It was a useful addition to her supplies. Further along, she noticed a deer making its way into the water. To her surprise, the deer proved to be an excellent swimmer. While she couldn't catch it, Jill took note of the deer's impressive abilities. Jill found a good spot by the lake to catch fish. She spent some time there, successfully fishing and adding to her collection. In the distance, she saw an island and decided to swim over to explore it. Upon reaching the island, she encountered another fisherman who had set up a spot for fishing.
I've been hunting and fishing in these parts for years.
They exchanged a few words, and Jill was able to use his fishing spot to catch even more fish. On the island, she also discovered a small stash of honey and bees, which could be a valuable find. As she made her way back, Jill was first ambushed by a group of wolves. She fought them off with fierce determination, only to find herself caught in an even more unusual conflict. She saw people chasing her, and fear gripped her as she started to run away. But then she realized they weren't after her at all. They were desperately trying to defeat a horde of zombies. The people were actually guards escorting a prisoner. Jill considered freeing the prisoner but decided against it, fearing the danger and uncertain about the prisoner's guilt. Later, Jill spotted a small campfire in the distance and eagerly approached, hoping to meet the hunter she saw there. To her disappointment, the camp was occupied by bandits. She had to flee quickly, weaving her way through the forest. As she made her escape, she encountered yet another wolf. With skill and determination, she managed to defeat it before continuing on her way. Returning to town, Jill chopped more wood and sold some of her items, which allowed her to craft a market stall. With this new addition, she hoped to improve her trade prospects. Back at her campfire, Jill noticed a woman lingering nearby, seemingly observing her setup.
Need something?
The presence of the stranger made Jill feel uneasy. The day ended with this weird encounter, leaving Jill with a sense of unease as she settled in for the night. The morning was beautiful, with clear skies, warm sunshine, and the gentle soothing sounds of water. Enjoying a venison chop in such a serene place was a delight. Jill wanted to remember every detail because this might be her last day near the village. Determined to continue her journey, Jill planned to craft a backpack and buy a bow with arrows. She headed out to chop wood again to earn some money, feeling a twinge of jealousy towards the hunter with his impressive bow. But she reminded herself that with hard work, she could have one too. Later, she went fishing but was interrupted by the sight of a crab. Seeing an opportunity, she decided to defeat it with her dagger, thinking that fresh crab meat would be a good item to sell. Afterwards, she purchased some supplies in the village for her upcoming journey and set up a market stall. She hoped to sell leathers, fish, various plants from the forest, and other items she had gathered. Jill felt optimistic as she waited, envisioning the beautiful bow she soon hoped to buy. Unfortunately, despite offering a 10% discount on all products, no one showed interest after a few hours. A man stopped by for a while, but seemed uninterested in purchasing anything.
What are you staring at? Need something? I don't owe you money, do I?
Realizing there was no sense in waiting any longer, Jill decided it was better to move on. The village clearly wasn't interested in her products, so she thought a larger city might offer better opportunities. She made more preparations before leaving Riverwood, wanting to pack quickly to avoid spending another night there. Before leaving, she checked if she could craft a backpack, but needed a corundum ingot, which was too expensive. Leaving the town, Jill felt a pang of hunger and ate some cooked fish. As she journeyed through the beautiful forest filled with a variety of plants, she eventually spotted a big city near the river. It seemed like a promising place to sell her goods. Around the city, she noticed numerous farms and then something massive, a giant battling two brave warriors. She watched in amazement as they defeated the monster and saved the farmers. The demonstration of strength and bravery left Jill inspired. She hoped to become that strong herself one day.
Fight with us and you'll have stories to tell.
The scenery was breathtaking, with snow-covered mountains in the distance and the bright sun illuminating the landscape. As dusk settled, Jill entered the town. It was vibrant and lively, with beautiful houses, trees, and flowers lining the streets. The bustling atmosphere and all the people gave her hope for better sales. She found a market where she could set up her stall the next day. With the sky now almost completely dark, Jill decided to find a place to camp. She discovered a perfect spot near the river and settled in, savoring the beauty of the night. The moon was huge, casting a gentle glow that made the night feel almost magical. The sounds of the river and the melody of crickets lured her into a peaceful sleep, ready for whatever adventures awaited her next. The morning was cold, and Jill sat by the fire, eating to gather strength for the day ahead. It was too early to set up her market stall, so she decided to explore the area. In the distance, she spotted a deer, marking the area as a promising hunting ground. She also noticed a large campfire with a giant standing nearby, a reminder to stay cautious. As she wandered, she defeated a few crabs and some attacking rats. She decided to check the other side of the town's surroundings and walked along the river, discovering some neon route. Further along, she found a beautiful bridge covered with plants. Next to it, she heard that distinctive sound again, another neon route. Near the bridge, she found an ideal fishing spot with an amazing view, so she decided to catch a few fish. Continuing her exploration, she noticed a house that piqued her curiosity. Approaching it, she saw a note by the door indicating that the owner had left and the house was now for sale. Someone in Dragon's Reach could provide more details. The house was enchanting, with a small garden for planting, a forge for crafting weapons and armor, and even a stable with plenty of hay. The views from the house were breathtaking. Excited, Jill hurried back to town, eager to set up her stall and sell her goods. Despite the long journey, she arrived just in time. However, her excitement was shattered when it started to rain. People would prefer the warmth of the tavern over shopping in the rain. Still, Jill decided to set up her stall next to the well and try her luck. It was cold and wet, and no one paid any attention to her wares. After a long wait, someone glanced at her stall but walked away. Determined, Jill decided to change her location, hoping to find a spot with less competition. She chose the stairs where people often passed by, thinking she could attract them before they reached the market. This idea worked well, as the nearby fire kept her warm and people began purchasing her items. She spent most of her day there, though many people still just walked by. Just as she was about to leave, she made a final sale: leather, a promising item for her future hunts. She needed a bow to hunt deer and elk effectively. On her way back, Jill saw a large pot blocking her path and helped the owner move it to the right place. She was surprised that no one had come to assist the beautiful woman nearby. Perhaps all the men were in the tavern. Jill then went to the inn to warm up and buy some salt for cooking. While there, she noticed a note next to the vendor mentioning that Halvar in Rorikstead was selling a goat. The goat could carry supplies and provide milk. Feeling a bit lonely, Jill thought it could make a great companion for her journey. Deciding to stay longer at the inn, Jill asked a bard to sing a song.
What can I do for you?
She enjoyed the performance, especially while warmed by the fire. Later, she was offered a drink. Despite her limited funds, she treated herself to some ale after a hard day's work.
His ugly red head rolled around on the floor.
She had a few great conversations before leaving. It was still raining when she returned to her campsite. She cooked some meals and admired the storm for a while before finally going to sleep, ready for whatever the next day would bring. The morning was foggy and calm, with no more rain. The floating mist above the river added a mysterious vibe, and the mountains hidden behind the clouds looked stunning. Jill's mission for the day was clear: earn enough money to buy a bow. However, it was too early to set up her market stall, so she decided to fish instead. The chill in the air drove her to warm herself by the fire before starting. The warmth seeped into her bones, and she felt ready to face the day. While fishing, a rustling sound caught her attention. Jill moved just as an arrow landed near her feet. Bandits had attacked, but fortunately a guard came to her rescue. Jill dodged the arrows and decided to leave the bandits to the guards, knowing she couldn't be of help. Seeking solace, Jill visited the house she had fallen in love with once more. The sight of a few deer grazing nearby felt like a sign that this place was meant to be hers. The deer proudly wandered around, adding to the charm of the place. She lingered there for a while, soaking in the peaceful atmosphere before heading back to the river. There, Jill fought with a crab and collected some eggs from the water. It was time to head back and set up her market stall. Jill walked with the hope that today would be better, but then it happened again. It started to rain. What are the odds? She wondered. Determined, she set up her stall near the fire, hoping the warmth would attract customers. The rain seemed to keep people away, and she sat there, watching potential buyers pass by. Finally, a man approached and, to her surprise, bought a bee. Jill was baffled but grateful for the sale. Each transaction improved her reputation, so she held on to hope that things would get better. After a long day, she had earned only 7 coins. With a heavy heart, she closed her stall, feeling a bit defeated. Refusing to let the day end on a low note, Jill decided to explore the city. She discovered Dragon's Reach and realized it was the place mentioned in a note. It was said that someone there could sell her the house she longed for. Inside, the building was bathed in golden light from the fire, and the windows allowed soft light to filter through, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Jill found a person who could sell her a house, but the price was staggering, 7,500. She knew she needed money urgently, so she decided to sell some of her items. Although she could get better prices at her stall, she had no choice. She visited a trader, feeling a pang of jealousy at his spacious warm shop. With a new idea, Jill headed to the inn, hoping to set up her market stall indoors. Despite a few interested customers, no one made a purchase. Disappointed, she listened to a beautiful song that lifted her spirits before returning to her campfire. While cooking, Jill thought about trying to fish again, but it was a bad idea. She ended up freezing with nothing to show for her effort. On her way back, she had to stop to warm herself by the fire. She quickly ate something before going to sleep, ending another challenging day. Jill woke up with a sense of adventure and decided to head west for the day. The early morning air was crisp as she made her way towards the river, eager to explore its winding banks. As she gathered near inroads, the distant howls of wolves pierced the air. Jill's heart raced when she realized there were no deep waters to dive into for safety. The confrontation was intense. The wolves' growls filled the air as Jill fought desperately. With a mix of skill and sheer luck, she managed to defeat them and gather their leather, though it was a close call. Determined to make the most of her day, Jill continued her journey. Her eyes caught glimpses of a few foxes darting through the underbrush. With swift precision, she brought them down and collected their hides. She spent the afternoon running alongside deer and marveling at the towering mammoths moving through the landscape. On her way back, she encountered a group of travelers. Initially wary, she soon realized they weren't bandits but friendly souls offering a drink.
Hail, friend! It's good to see another merry soul enjoying this fine day. Ah, but you look tired. Come, share a bottle of honey brew mead with me.
Jill accepted and discovered that the drink was quite valuable. She decided to hold on to it for later, planning to sell it in the city. Returning to the city, she crafted leather bracers from the hides she had collected. Nervous about the possibility of rain, she was relieved when the sky stayed clear. For a while, there were no buyers, but eventually a white-run guard purchased the bracers. He put them on with a satisfied grin, clearly impressed with their quality, which made Jill's day. Later, Jill sold the meat given to her by the travelers. With the coin from the sale, she finally had enough to purchase the bow she had worked so hard for. Unable to sell anything more that day, Jill hurried to get her bow. She contemplated buying arrows as well, but decided it might be cheaper to craft them herself. At the forge, she discovered that making 24 arrows required both wood and iron ingots. While wood was free, iron ingots were reasonably priced, so she bought 3. She searched Whiterun for a place to chop wood, but didn't see any, even though there were a few spots right there. So she decided to head to Riverwood instead and prepared some meals for the journey. The forest was dark, and without a torch to guide her, finding her way through became a real challenge. By the time she arrived in Riverwood, night had fully fallen, and she began chopping wood in the dim light. With the wood gathered, she was finally able to craft her arrows. It was a rewarding moment. She now had a bow ready for hunting. Elated, she sought out a place to sleep. She built a campfire to keep warm, but in a moment of clumsiness, she stumbled into the river. Soaked and shivering, she went to sleep, exhausted but content with her day's accomplishments. Jill awoke quickly as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon. The sky was still dim, but excitement for her new bow urged her out of bed. She was eager to test it and knew just the place, the fields around Whiterun. As she neared her destination, she noticed a group of travelers. One of them, spotting Jill running, took it as a challenge and began to sprint alongside her. The friendly competition sparked her competitive spirit, and with a burst of speed, she outpaced him, leaving him far behind. She glanced back with a grin, feeling a sense of pride and exhilaration. Upon reaching the fields, Jill's keen eyes caught sight of a deer grazing in the distance. In silence, she nocked an arrow and drew her bowstring back, feeling the tension and power coursing through it. She aimed carefully, taking a deep breath to steady herself. Her fingers released the arrow, which soared through the air with a whispering hiss. It struck the deer, but it was only a minor wound. The frightened animal ran away, and Jill sprang after it, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She pursued it through tall grass and over uneven terrain, but the deer eventually disappeared into the underbrush. Determined not to let her first attempt discourage her, Jill pressed on. After a while, she spotted another deer. She repeated her careful approach, but this one too managed to escape. This pattern repeated throughout the day. At one point, she was sure she had a perfect shot, only to see the deer vanish inexplicably just before her arrow struck. It felt like magic, and it added a layer of mystery to her day. Determined not to end the day empty-handed, she finally cornered an elk. With precision, she released her final arrow, only for it to miss its mark and land in the ground. Refusing to give up, Jill ran after the elk, her muscles burning with effort. Through persistence, she managed to defeat it, her first successful hunt. Exhausted but triumphant, she took a break to eat and regain her strength. By day's end, she had successfully hunted 5 more animals, feeling her archery skills improve with each shot. Returning to the city, she carried 5 elk hides and 1 deer hide. She headed straight to the tanning rack, transforming the hides into leather and leather strips. She had enough materials to craft a leather scout gauntlets, helmet, and boots. It was too late to set up her market stall, so she decided to do it the next day. To prepare for her morning hunt, she needed more arrows, and with nearly empty pockets, went to the local trader. She sold some less valuable items, just enough to purchase 3 iron ingots. Back at the workshop, she crafted more arrows. With her preparations complete, Jill decided to spend the evening fishing. The cool night air was refreshing, and the fish seemed to be especially active, biting eagerly at her bait. On her way back, she paused to admire the breathtaking sunset, hues of pink and violet painting the sky. The night was cold, so she warmed herself by a fire before making her way to her campsite. She chose a spot similar to the previous night and built a campfire. Despite the day's challenges, Jill felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Her legs ached from the long chase, but she knew she had improved. She fell into a deep sleep, dreaming of becoming a great archer. Jill woke up to the sound of rain and thunder, feeling a pang of sadness as she realized it would be tough to sell anything in such weather. Nevertheless, she decided not to dwell on it and focused on hunting before setting up her stall. She wondered if she would be able to find any animals in the rain. After walking for quite some time without spotting any deer, she was suddenly attacked by 2 wolves. Panicking, she drew her dagger to defend herself. She managed to take down one, but the other overpowered her. When she regained consciousness, she found herself back at her campsite. Someone must have saved her, though she had no idea who. To express her gratitude, she went to the nearest house and left all her gold there, hoping to brighten someone's day. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. A bit shaken, she set out hunting again. This time, she noticed a deer being chased by wolves. Jill saw an opportunity for 3 hides, but also spotted a fallen goat and rabbit, likely attacked by the wolves earlier. She decided to collect their hides instead. Later, she tracked another deer, but it escaped into the snow-covered mountains where the bitter cold was too much for her to endure. Disappointed, she turned back. She encountered wolves again, but this time she was prepared. She attacked first, using the element of surprise to her advantage. After a fierce battle, the wolves escaped, leaving behind the body of a man. Searching him, she found a note revealing that people were using wolves in fighting tournaments. Saddened by this, Jill continued her journey. On her way back to the city, she defeated another wolf. Wet and freezing, she found herself longing for her favorite market spot near a warm, crackling fire. Before setting up, she crafted more items to sell. As she walked at the tiny rock, the weather changed and the rain stopped. Jill couldn't believe her luck as the sun came out brightly. She crafted a leather scout armor, completing her full leather set. She decided to display it prominently at her stall, hoping it would attract buyers. If no one showed interest, she would keep it for herself. Her stall, now filled with armor and hunting items, leather, horns, and meat, looked inviting. She didn't have to wait long before someone bought some venison. The crowd was large that day, and soon she sold wolf pelt as well. Her reputation as merchant was growing. As the day progressed, she sold various items, including leather and scout boots, which a customer proudly wore. He looked great in them, and Jill was thrilled. She also sold a goat hide, horns, and more leather. When someone purchased a helmet for 184 coins, she was shocked. Helmets were highly valued in Whiterun, where it often rained. Her good fortune continued as she sold even more items. A man approached, eyeing her leather scout armor with interest. When he bought it for 370 coins, Jill was speechless. The day, which had begun so poorly, had turned into one of her best. With 900 coins in her pocket and her stall nearly empty, she sought her final piece of venison. She packed up her things and headed to the inn to buy salt, though she could only find a single pile. She located another at the market and then bought 6 iron ingots. The sun was still bright, so Jill decided to hunt once more. This time she found plenty of animals. While tracking one, she was approached by a woman who had escaped from bandits and was now lost.
Oh, thank goodness. I've been wandering alone for so long I thought I'd never see another soul again. I was kidnapped by these bandits weeks ago. They locked me up in the towers near Mistwatch. I managed to pick the lock and slip out while the guards slept, but now I'm completely lost. Can you help me, please?
Jill directed her toward town and watched until she was safely out of sight, then resumed her hunt. It was getting dark by the time she finally caught a deer near the city. When she returned to her campsite, it was completely dark. After cooking a meal, she lay down and drifted into a deep, restful sleep, feeling stronger with each passing minute. Jill was suddenly awakened by the sound of a man running past her campsite. She sat up quickly, her heart pounding, wondering if he was fleeing from bandits or a wild beast. The day began with rain, which was unfortunate, as Jill had planned to hunt for leather to craft armor and a backpack in preparation for her journey westward from Whiterun. Despite the downpour, Jill spotted an elk and skillfully took it down. As she continued her hunt, the rain eventually ceased, revealing a sunny day. Unable to find more animals, Jill decided to explore the area east of her dream house. On her path, she noticed a woman by the river, staring intently at something. Concerned, Jill approached to check if she was alright.
Need something?
Although the woman seemed fine, her behavior was undeniably peculiar. Moving on, Jill encountered a deer near the house and gave chase. A wolf joined in the hunt, and although they were too fast for her, she managed to take down a nearby goat. Determined to find the deer, Jill climbed the hill where she had last seen it. She was confronted by the wolf, which she defeated, but the deer had vanished. Exploring further, she discovered some ruins but quickly retreated upon detecting the presence of a flame Atronach. She stumbled upon a farm, its rustic charm instantly transporting her back to cherished memories of family and childhood. The sight of growing plants and animals grazing brought a nostalgic smile to her face. After a while, she continued on her way, heart warmed by the brief sweet reminder of her past. Today, Jill found herself mainly battling wolves. One encounter was particularly intense. A wolf charged at her with terrifying speed, causing her to panic. She managed to steady herself and ultimately overcame the beast. She also had a strange encounter where she was chased by both a rat and a person. During the chase, she was injured but couldn't determine if her pursuer harmed her by accident while fighting the rat or aimed to injure her severely. This mystery would remain unsolved. By the end of the day, Jill had gathered enough leather from various animals and decided to head back to Riverwood to prepare herself, needing firewood for arrows. Upon entering the village, a concerned villager pointed out that she looked unwell.
You all right? You look like you might be sick.
Jill realized she had contracted rock joint and quickly sought medicine from the local trader. It was expensive, so she hoped Whiterun might offer a more affordable cure. Despite her illness, Jill chopped wood, proudly showcasing her bow to another hunter nearby. She crafted numerous arrows and a full set of leather armor, feeling a sense of accomplishment regardless of her ailment. However, she still needed a corundum ingot to craft a backpack and was disappointed to find the local blacksmith didn't have one for sale. Jill's day wasn't over yet. She quickly visited the inn to buy salt and was pleased to find some. As night fell, she made her way to Whiterun. The journey in the dark was challenging and Jill lamented not having a torch. Along the way, she encountered a woman in trouble with two men. Jill watched until the men left, ensuring the woman was safe before continuing.
They thought I was some other Redguard woman. They just wouldn't leave me alone. I hope they get lost in the wilderness.
The views during her trip were breathtaking, even in the dark. Upon arriving in Whiterun, Jill found the shop she needed was closed, leaving her disappointed. Seeking help, she noticed the Temple of Kinnarev and decided to pray there, offering 100 gold in hopes of a blessing. Her prayers were answered and she was cured of rock joint. Later, Jill met Adrian, who revealed that the man selling the house was actually her father.
Have you met my father? He's the steward up at Dragon's Reach.
What a coincidence, she thought. Jill returned to her campfire, cooked many meals for her travels, and felt a sense of contentment. She was excited about heading west the next day, with only a few minor preparations left. Before drifting off to sleep, she marveled at the beautiful night sky with its two moons, feeling stronger and more determined for the adventures ahead. Jill woke up with excitement coursing through her veins, eager to embark on her new expedition. With the shops not yet open, she seized the opportunity to hunt. Despite scouring the area thoroughly, finding animals proved challenging. Nonetheless, she managed to bring down both elk and deer. Yet again, she was ambushed by a stranger and narrowly escaped with her life. When the shops finally opened, Jill went to buy ingots for her backpack and arrows. Torn between an adventurer's and a hunter's backpack, she ultimately chose the latter due to its specialized design for hunters. She also crafted camping supplies and a fresh batch of arrows. Determined to buy a torch, Jill checked several traders but came up empty-handed. Instead, she purchased some meals and salt. Before leaving, she enhanced her bow and armor and put on her new backpack. She took a final, wistful glance at Whiterun. The town had become dear to her, but it was time to move on. She broke camp and set off towards Rorikstead, hoping to find a goat companion. She planned to set up camp halfway to Rorikstead. Along the way, she hunted a few animals, though she struggled to find an elk's body in the thick underbrush. A nearby giant made her nervous, so she decided to move on rather than risk an encounter. The landscape was teeming with wildlife, untouched by other hunters. Upon reaching her planned spot, she decided to press on as it was still bright. The day was a dream come true for a hunter, filled with breathtaking views and abundant animals. Jill spent the day running, sneaking, and reveling in the terrain and scenery. As she neared her intended campsite, she noticed a giant roaming the area. Relocating was necessary, so she continued west and stumbled upon a serene spot with a river and a cascading waterfall. The tranquil sounds of the water were inviting, perfect for a restful night. By the glowing light of the fire, Jill relaxed at her new campsite, surrounded by the soothing sounds of nature. Though completely alone, she felt deeply connected to the wild. As night fell, she drifted off to sleep, her day's adventures having sharpened her skills and leaving her ready for the challenges ahead. The morning greeted Jill with relentless rain, and the chill was piercing as she climbed up the hill. Her heart raced when she spotted a saber cat in the distance, causing her to quickly turn back, unsure if she could handle the beast. As she descended, a stranger suddenly ran toward her. Instinctively, Jill drew her bow, and when he was close enough, released an arrow. It turned out the man only wanted to ask a favor. He requested Jill hold his gauntlets, promising to return for them later. There was something off about him, and Jill couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. During their conversation, a pack of wolves attacked. Jill fought them off, but when she looked back, the man had vanished. She continued her journey, carefully avoiding the saber cat, and soon found herself in safer territory. While hunting, Jill heard a voice behind her.
See someone run past us now.
The question caught her attention, linking back to the man she had encountered earlier. Trusting her instincts, Jill returned the gauntlets to their rightful owner. As the hunter left, she wondered if she had made the right choice and if it would lead to trouble. Jill quickly reached Rorikstead and found Halvar to ask about purchasing a goat. Despite the high cost, she was determined to buy it. Hilda, waiting nearby, had an adventurous spark in her eyes. Reading Halvar's journal, Jill discovered he had traveled Skyrim with Hilda before deciding to settle in Rorikstead. Jill believed Hilda would be happy to join her on her journeys. Seeking warmth, Jill and Hilda headed to the inn. The crackling fire and cozy interior were a welcome relief from the cold and wet. Jill dried off and stocked up on supplies, feeling refreshed. Setting off once more, Jill followed signs pointing toward Falkreath, a place she had never visited and was eager to explore. The rain ceased as she entered a dense and eerie forest, where she stumbled upon a mill. She decided to chop some wood, knowing Hilda could help carry it. Hilda waited patiently beside her. At the next signpost, Jill couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She turned to find a skeleton standing next to Hilda. After defeating it, she pressed on, the forest growing darker. Suddenly, she heard a scream and felt a sword swipe dangerously close to her back. Fear overwhelmed Jill as she sprinted forward, but she soon gathered her courage and turned to face her attacker. Shaking, Jill tried to aim her bow, but panic made her hands unsteady and she hoped to escape. After a while, she lost sight of the enemy but realized Hilda was also missing. Desperation drove her back, searching for her loyal companion. Jill was relieved to find Hilda nearby, safe and sound. They quickly made their way to Falkreath, finally feeling secure. Despite the town's safety, Jill remained terrified. Therefore, she decided to enhance the rest of her armor. As night fell, she set up camp as close to town as she could, hoping for a bit of security. She suspected the attacker had been hired by the thief who had given her the gauntlets to hold. Hoping for a safe night, she stayed up late by the fire, keeping watch until exhaustion overcame her. Jill fell into a restless sleep filled with nightmares, haunted by the events of the day. Jill made it through the night. With the morning light, she set out for another hunt near the lake. Reluctantly, she retraced her steps along the same path where she had previously encountered the attacker. Fortunately, the attacker was nowhere in sight, but the day was still filled with unsettling events. Her first encounter was a Khajiit trader. Hesitant at first, Jill approached him only to find he was selling skooma and moon sugar, neither of which interested her.
The finest skooma, the sweetest moon sugar. At a fair price, of course.
Further along the path, she came across a beautiful horse standing alone. It struck her as unusual, but she moved on, reaching the lake without incident. At the lake, Jill was confronted by a thief.
All right, hand over your valuables, or I'll gut you like a fish.
Determined not to give in, she fought back. After a single arrow, the thief ran away, leaving Jill victorious. Unable to find any animals near the lake, she decided to return to the forest. As Jill made her way through the trees, she was suddenly attacked by a zombie, which she quickly defeated. Continuing on, she stumbled upon a horrific sight. The same horse she had seen earlier lay motionless on the forest floor. Nearby, a wolf lay still, its body adding to the already unsettling scene. Jill wondered if a greater danger was lurking in the area. Despite the day's challenges, there was a small bright spot. Hilda had milk ready to collect. This unexpected find pleasantly surprised Jill and provided her with a new item to sell. Deciding it was best to head back to Falkreath, Jill used the leather she had gathered from previous days to craft some new armor pieces. Unfortunately, her efforts were met with disappointment as no customers appeared. Feeling frustrated, Jill decided to leave Falkreath behind and continue her journey to Whiterun, passing through Riverwood along the way. The journey proved to be a successful hunting trip for Jill. She even managed to catch a snow fox. Afterwards, she moved through the small village of Riverwood without pausing, eager to reach Whiterun. In the fields, she spotted something intriguing in the distance, a mammoth battling two saber cats. Jill watched from a safe distance, fascinated by the dramatic struggle. The saber cats were quickly defeated, and although Jill was wary of the mammoth, she decided to approach the carcasses of the cats. As dusk fell, she set up camp near a small waterfall. The day had been filled with odd encounters and dangers, from thieves and bandits to shady traders. Yet, despite the day's unsettling events, Jill felt a sense of calm as she settled into her camp near Whiterun, ready for a restful night's sleep. Jill was suddenly woken up by Hilda making a lot of noise. She had planned to set up her market stall, but it was still too early. Instead, she decided to spend some quiet hours by the river fishing. The air was crisp and refreshing, while the gentle splashing of the water created a peaceful atmosphere around her. Later, Jill went hunting, but to her disappointment, she didn't spot a single animal. It seemed that either she had already hunted all the animals in the area, or they had simply moved on. Realizing she needed to find new hunting grounds, she decided to head to the city. As she climbed the stairs, the rain began to fall. Jill was used to this, so she didn't let it bother her and continued on. She set up her stall and had a fantastic day of sales. She sold plenty of items, mostly the more affordable ones like fish, pelts, hides, and venison, which surprisingly turned out to be a bestseller. She also managed to sell a pair of gauntlets and boots, but the pricier leather armor pieces remained unsold. Realizing she might have better luck in a larger city where people had more money and varied needs, Jill began considering her next move. Additionally, she needed new hunting grounds, making the idea of heading to a bigger city even more appealing. By the end of the day, she had made around 350 gold and sold most of the items she had brought, except for the helmet and the armor. Ready to put her plan into action, she prepared for her departure. Jill bought additional supplies, crafted arrows, and put together a few more items to sell. Leaving the city, Jill sought out a carriage driver with a cart and arranged a ride to Solitude.
First time to Solitude?
The journey was uncomfortable. The cart was jolted around on the uneven road, making it impossible for her to get any restful sleep. Arriving in Solitude, she was both hungry and exhausted. It was still early morning, so she decided to set up camp nearby. She noticed some fellow travelers with tents and chose a spot close to them. Not needing much strength for the day ahead, she set up her camp, hoping to grab at least 3 hours of rest. Jill, still exhausted but excited about seeing a new city, got up and eagerly headed out. The city was vibrant and bustling with people. She spotted a market teeming with activity and decided to set up her stall there. Initially, she sold only one fish and one piece of venison as the competition was fierce. Observing the flow of people, she noticed that most were coming from the right side. Taking advantage of this, she moved her stall to attract them before they reached her competitors. This proved to be a brilliant strategy. Soon, people started buying her goods. Fish, venison, and Nirnros were in high demand in this city. She even sold 2 helmets in a row, along with gauntlets and armor. By the end of the day, she had sold nearly all her items. The city's residents clearly had a greater need for armor and supplies. Jill earned around 1,000 gold and was thrilled. She finally had everything she needed to be a successful hunter and could now start saving money for a house. Later, she found a blacksmith and used his forge to craft new items to sell the next day. Wanting to ensure she was well rested after the previous night's discomfort, she went to camp earlier. The rain began to fall and she felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing the helmets she sold would be useful in the wet weather. The longer sleep allowed her to regain her strength and prepare for new adventures in the coming days. The morning was dark and rainy, but the gloomy weather couldn't dampen Jill's spirits. Eager to explore new areas, she set out, hoping to discover promising hunting grounds. As she ventured into the unknown, she came across a signpost pointing toward a place called Dragon Bridge. The name intrigued her, so she decided to head in that direction. Along the way, she stumbled upon a shrine of Kinnereth. She paused to pray, receiving a blessing that seemed perfect for a day of hunting. Despite the blessing, the relentless rain soaked her to the bone, leaving her cold and shivering. To warm up, she quickened her pace, eager to reach Dragon Bridge. When Jill finally arrived, she found a small village situated beside a massive stone bridge crowned with a dragon's head. The name now made perfect sense. Spotting a campfire nearby, she approached to warm herself and took the opportunity to chop some wood, thinking ahead to future crafting needs. After a while, she crossed the bridge and, despite the downpour, managed to hunt a fox. Later, she spotted an elk and gave chase. But just as she was about to take another shot, something lashed out from the underbrush, injuring her. It was a mud crab. Though she quickly defeated it, the elk had vanished by the time she recovered. Continuing her journey, Jill stumbled upon a broken cart along the path. Uneasy and suspicious, she scanned the area for signs of bandits, but saw none. Deciding it was best not to investigate the cart, she chose to move in the opposite direction. As she pursued another deer, she noticed a fox darting through the forest. Her legs, tired from the chase, urged her to take the easier targets. After collecting the fox's hide, she noticed a small hut hidden among the trees. Curiosity piqued, she approached and stepped inside. Inside the hut, she found a man lying on a bed. At first, she thought he was asleep, but it quickly became clear that he was gone. The scene filled her with sadness. A journal on the table beside him revealed that the man had died of rock joint, and the fact that she could have ended up the same way, having once been ill with the disease herself, struck her with a deep sense of terror. The journal also mentioned a companion named Miko, leaving Jill to wonder who Miko was and whether he was still around. She searched the hut and the surrounding forest, but found no sign of anyone else. The eerie atmosphere drove her back to the road. Suddenly, a rustling sound caught her attention. An animal emerged from the forest and Jill instinctively reached for her bow. But to her surprise, it wasn't a wolf, it was a dog. Jill decided to follow the unexpected animal. The dog led her back to the hut. Inside, Jill found the dog sitting loyally beside the man's body. This must be Miko, his faithful companion, still keeping watch even after the man's passing. The sight deeply touched Jill and she decided to take the dog with her. Miko, overjoyed, barked happily as he joined Jill and her goat Hilda. Now, their little group had grown to 3. With her new companion by her side, Jill decided it was time to return to the city. On the way back, she hunted a few more animals, and by the time she reached her usual spot to sell her goods, the rain had finally stopped. She had a feeling it was going to be a lucky day. As she set up her goods, Hilda nibbled on some flowers while Miko watched her with curious eyes. The once sad dog now barked happily at the children playing nearby. Jill had plenty of time to reflect as she sat there, remembering that if she wanted to improve her fishing skills, she could visit the Riften fishery. The idea excited her. Riften was said to be surrounded by rivers, lakes and forests, making it an ideal place for hunting. Meanwhile, business was good. Jill sought a variety of cooking ingredients as usual, along with a stylish helmet, 2 pairs of gauntlets and even the armor. By the end of the day, she had earned around 800 gold, bringing her dream of owning a house even closer. With her mind made up, Jill decided to craft more items to sell the next day, but not in solitude. She planned to travel to Riften, though it was far away. Wanting to break up the journey and avoid spending the entire day on the road, she considered stopping in Windham, but decided against it due to the cold and snow. Her leather armor wouldn't provide enough warmth, and the crafted items she had might not sell well there. Instead, she chose to stop in Whiterun. Before leaving, Jill took a moment to admire the beautiful sky. The evening was calm and a new adventure awaited her. She hoped to get some rest on the cart as she wouldn't have time to set up a campfire once she reached Whiterun. Jill arrived in Whiterun early in the morning, feeling both exhausted and starving. With no time to spare, she set out to hunt but quickly realized she was too tired to chase after animals. Opting for a less strenuous activity, she decided to go fishing, which proved to be much easier. By mid-morning, she had set up her stall in Whiterun. Business was thriving. She sold 2 pairs of gauntlets and was pleased to see one of her customers wearing both a pair of gauntlets and a helmet she had crafted with great precision. Among the day's sales were a variety of less valuable items: antlers, a jug of milk, fish, a saber-cut tooth, crab meat, and legs.
Good day.
To her surprise, crab meat turned out to be the top seller. By the time she finished for the day, she had earned nearly 500 gold. With her sales wrapped up earlier than usual, Jill focused on preparing for her next adventure. She purchased supplies and crafted extra arrows, getting ready for the hunting grounds in Riften. Leaving Whiterun behind, she traveled to Riften by carriage. Arriving early the next morning, Jill was completely drained. This time she chose to set up camp and rest, planning to explore the new area later in the day. Jill had only slept for 3 hours, but excitement drove her to get up early and explore new areas. Barely outside the camp, she spotted a fox, a promising sign for hunting. Jill attacked the fox, and to her surprise, Miko jumped in to help her. She had never trained him for this, so perhaps his previous owner had taken him hunting as well. The terrain was breathtaking, with trees adorned in yellow leaves that softly fell, forming a vibrant orange layer on the ground. Enchanted by the beauty around her, Jill let her guards down and didn't notice the danger creeping up behind her. Suddenly, she was attacked. Panic surged through her as she turned to face the threat, a massive spider unlike any she had ever seen. Poisoned and convinced it was the end, Jill ran, her vision blurring, but then she heard Miko bravely fighting the creature. Somehow, he saved her. As the venom's grip loosened, Jill found her strength and turned back to help Miko. With a final shot, she took down the spider. Miko ran to her, wagging his tail, and Jill was overwhelmed with gratitude for her loyal companion. The day had just begun, and already Miko had helped her hunt and saved her life. Jill approached the lifeless spider and carefully extracted its venom, knowing it could be valuable for trade. Once she felt better, she returned to the stunning landscape, savoring the moment's peace. But her tranquility was short-lived. Miko began growling and sprinted off. Another spider! This time, Jill instinctively grabbed her bow and fired, but when the spider began to chase her, she panicked and fled, narrowly escaping once again. A woman appeared out of nowhere to help her finish off the creature. The day had started hard. Still shaken, Jill stumbled upon a serene lake, its calm waters reflecting the yellow trees, the blue sky, and the snow-capped mountains in the distance. It was a breathtaking sight, a stark contrast to the dangers she had just faced. On her journey, Jill came across a campfire where some people were gathered. Initially hesitant, she approached them and soon discovered they were hunters.
I've been hunting and fishing in these parts for years.
To her relief, they were friendly. Jill had never met other hunters on her trips, so this was a reassuring sign that the area was abundant in wildlife. However, the forest's beauty was matched by its dangers. A large pack of wolves attacked Jill, but with Miko's help, she managed to defeat them. It was the largest group of wolves she had ever encountered, but it quickly became clear that the forest was teeming with them. By the end of the day, she had faced down more than a dozen wolves, hunted several other animals, and even managed to take down another spider. As the sun set and darkness began to creep in, Jill decided it was time to head back. On her way, she stumbled upon a small village where she warmed herself by a campfire and listened to the local stories.
I'd rather spend more time in the mine hauling up iron than doing woman's work, keeping the house clean.
Eventually, she returned to her camp, surprised to find a group of Khajiit merchants set up nearby. Exhausted and eager to reach Riften the next day, Jill quickly fell asleep, her mind still buzzing from the day's events. As Jill woke up, she headed straight to the city. Upon reaching the gate, the guard stopped her and demanded a visitor's tax.
Hold there. Before I let you into Riften, you need to pay the visitor's tax.
Jill immediately felt uneasy, suspecting it might be a scam.
What does it matter?
Just as she was contemplating how to handle the situation, the guard drew his bow. Jill tensed, thinking he was angry at her for not paying immediately, but it turned out the guards were chasing a man. Seizing the opportunity, Jill tried to sneak past and open the gate while the guards were distracted, but it was locked. The guards gave chase and eventually brought him down. Feeling shaken by the guards' harsh actions, Jill decided to pay the tax and entered the city.
I had another run-in with a thief's guild.
Be careful, Leo.
As she stepped inside, she overheard talk of the Thieves Guild, and soon a strange man approached her, adding to her sense of unease.
Yeah? Well, I got news for you. There's nothing to see here.
The townspeople seemed particularly odd, with frequent arguments breaking out.
Why? Why are you doing this to me?
One man even accused Jill of not earning her money honestly. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, the town had a unique charm with interesting architecture and a bustling market at its center. Jill made her way to the fishery, where a man handed her a list of 4 fish to catch: carp, glassfish, goldfish, and pogfish. She was also advised to read a book about fishing. Jill located and read the book, which provided detailed instructions on where and when to catch each type of fish. Additionally, she received a request for a juvenile mud crab, which is said to be most commonly found in Broken Fang Cave, located west of Whiterun. Since Jill had previously caught crabs in rivers, she hoped her luck would hold. When Jill went fishing, her first catch was a goldfish, which was on the list. Later, she decided to craft items to sell, using the leather she had collected from the previous day. With so much leather at her disposal, she was able to create a wide variety of goods. She looked around town for a good spot to set up her stall. Although she knew it wasn't ideal to set up at the market itself, she chose a location near the blacksmith, thinking it would attract more customers. The spot seemed promising until a woman suddenly drew a dagger and stood motionless. Meanwhile, people continued to buy Jill's goods as the tension escalated. The woman then engaged in a fierce fight with a man, and Jill was paralyzed with fear, unsure whether to run, intervene, or stay put. The confrontation ended with the woman's final scream. She didn't survive. Overwhelmed with guilt and wondering if she could have done something to help, Jill watched in shock as the man responsible for the woman's fate came to her stall and purchased antlers. The day continued with good business. Jill sold a lot of items, but her mind was consumed with thoughts of the woman's body and why no one had intervened. Her distraction was interrupted when a guard bought armor, surprising Jill as she thought guards had to wear standard issue armor. She watched him leave with his new gear. The blacksmith near Jill worked tirelessly, and Jill almost forgot about what had happened to the woman.
What happened?
However, she was jolted back to reality when she heard someone express surprise behind her. By the end of the day, Jill had earned nearly 600 gold and still had plenty of armor parts left to sell. She was puzzled that no one had purchased a helmet, which had usually been a popular item. Driven by curiosity, Jill quickly went to check on the woman's body, hoping to uncover some clue about her identity and the cause of the attack. Unfortunately, the mystery remained unresolved as Jill found nothing and left the body undisturbed. Returning to her camp, Jill noticed the Khajiit merchant's camp was gone. As she prepared for bed, she couldn't shake the thoughts of the day's events and the incident with the woman. She fell asleep plagued by nightmares, but despite the grim day, she felt that it had made her stronger. The morning dawned peacefully as Jill stood by the fire, wondering what the new day might bring. The terrain was treacherous, so she knew she needed to tread carefully. Jill's first catch of the day was a deer near the lake, marking a successful start. The surrounding area was bathed in a warm, orange glow from the early morning sunlight. As she walked along the water's edge, she found a promising spot to fish. Just like the day before, her first catch was a goldfish, which she considered a sign of good luck. A little later, she managed to catch a juvenile mud crab, which pleased her greatly. She had been looking for one to fulfill a request. While exploring the area, Jill was suddenly ambushed by a pack of wolves. She knew she had to be extra cautious and quickly dealt with them. That day, she was attacked multiple times by wolves, but the encounters were not without their benefits. She was able to collect plenty of leather from the fallen animals. The forest was teeming with deer and elk, adding to the beauty of the place. Jill loved the area. The abundance of wildlife and the nostalgic views made her feel deeply connected to the land. As she continued her journey, she stumbled upon a signpost pointing to a town she had never heard of before, Ivarstead. Intrigued, she decided to check it out. Jill traveled through a stunning landscape with beautiful weather and golden autumn leaves falling around her. She came across another signpost and while admiring the stone structure, she heard a commotion. Jill turned just in time to see Miko fight a large spider, saving her from what could have been a life-threatening surprise attack. Without Miko, the spider might have caught her off guard, and in a panic, she could have been poisoned or worse. But with Miko by her side, Jill felt safe. The encounter with the spider reminded Jill that she had forgotten to sell the venom she had collected in recent days. She would have to do that next time, but the thought made her uneasy. Riften was a dangerous place, and she worried the venom might be used for sinister purposes instead of being turned into curing potions. Later, Jill helped some travelers who had been attacked by wolves. In gratitude, they gave her a bottle of honey brew meat. The gesture made her smile, reminding her of the first time she had earned enough money to buy a bow with the same meat. As Jill neared Ivarstead, she heard a sound that sent a chill down her spine. Panicking, she ran, thinking it might be a bear. She didn't dare to look back until she reached the safety of a bridge, but saw nothing in the distance. Ivarstead turned out to be a small village. Jill explored it a bit and visited the local tavern to buy supplies. She had initially planned to set up camp nearby, but with the sun still high in the sky, she decided to head back to Riften instead. Jill had become an exceptional archer. No animal could escape or hide from her keen eye. On her way back, she stumbled upon a farm and was surprised to find a field of growing nirnroots, an entirely unexpected and curious sight. The woman tending the field explained that she was cultivating them from seeds to full-grown plants. This sparked an idea in Jill's mind. She wondered if she could grow nirnroots in a small field behind her dream house. The thought of the soothing sounds of plants filling the air around her home was appealing. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Jill was once again captivated by the vibrant colors of the landscape. It had been a good day. Exhausted, she returned to her camp and quickly fell into a deep sleep. Jill rose early and headed straight to town, eager to get her day started. She spent the morning crafting items for sale and then made her way to the fishery to deliver the juvenile mud crab she had caught. The woman at the fishery was pleased, and Jill earned 100 gold, along with a new request for a glassfish to be delivered to someone in Falkreath. Surprisingly, Jill's first catch of the day was indeed a glassfish. What a coincidence. However, she had no plans to travel to Falkreath in the near future. After setting up her market stall, Jill decided to put the venom she had collected up for sale, despite her concerns about its potential use. People were very eager to buy her products, even though it was still early morning. The venom was sold to a woman who seemed particularly interested. Jill watched the woman walk away with a sense of unease, knowing the venom could be a dangerous tool in the wrong hands. She thought it wise to avoid the tavern and any food or drink that might be poisoned with the very venom she had just sold. Soon after, another vial of venom was purchased, which intrigued Jill. That day, a guard bought armor. What seemed unusual to Jill was that the guard merely stood by her stall, observing her and her merchandise, while other customers went about buying things. Jill suspected he might have been interested in a helmet. Even the merchant from the market came by and bought armor. Later, the blacksmith also made a purchase. Jill was having an exceptional day. As the blacksmith walked away, a woman bought armor from her stall. It felt like a dream come true. The situation grew even stranger when the guard who had been watching her was joined by another guard, and then a third.
If Riften is the best Skyrim has to offer.
The guard seemed intensely interested in her wares, standing by her stall until she finished her work for the day. Despite their presence, Jill managed to sell almost everything she had, except for the helmets, which remained unsold. Perhaps the lack of rain in the area had reduced their appeal, and Jill decided not to craft more. By the end of the day, Jill had earned around 2,500 gold, the highest single-day earnings she had ever made, bringing her much closer to her goal. To unwind before bed, she decided to do a bit of fishing. After a relaxing time by the water, Jill returns to her camp and fell asleep, satisfied with her productive day. Jill awoke to the familiar bustle of Khajiit merchants walking around her campfire. Determined to make the most of the day, she decided to focus on fishing and hunting, aiming to gather more leather for crafting new items and to stock up on goods for sale. Today, Jill successfully caught the carp she needed for a client at the fishery, leaving only a pogfish on her list. She spent the day traversing the stunning forest, hunting with her loyal companion Miko by her side. Together, they made an excellent team. Miko's keen sense of danger made Jill feel much safer, while Hilda, their ever-watchful companion, stayed close, keeping a vigilant eye on their surroundings. As they traveled, Jill took in the picturesque landscape and pleasant weather, savoring the peacefulness of the day. While exploring, Jill spotted two spiders in the distance. Recognizing that facing them would be too dangerous, she decided to retreat. Unfortunately, Miko had already engaged the spiders in battle. Jill anxiously waited at a safe distance, hoping her brave companion would return soon. After what felt like an eternity, Miko came bounding back to her unharmed. The encounter with the spiders was a clear sign that it was time to head back. Jill was confident she had gathered enough leather to earn a good amount of money. As they made their way home, snow began to fall, adding a serene touch to their journey. With the evening still ahead of her, Jill spent the remaining daylight preparing for tomorrow's sail. She focused on crafting armor, which had been selling particularly well lately. Finally, she settled down for the night, eager and hopeful that tomorrow might be the day she could afford to buy a house. It was early morning when Jill rose and eagerly headed to the city to set up her stall. Although it was still quite dark, Jill didn't mind. She had a great assortment of items ready for sale, and other merchants, including the blacksmith, were already hard at work. Jill was surprised when a beggar purchased some venison, something she had never seen before. She was also pleased to see an Argonian merchant buying gauntlets and proudly wearing them, along with the armor he had previously bought from Jill's stall. A similar scenario unfolded with the blacksmith, who bought a pair of gauntlets that day. Despite the gloomy weather, people were undeterred and continued to buy Jill's goods throughout the day. However, she was a bit disappointed that she didn't sell all of her armor, and as usual, no one bought a helmet. In the end, she earned around 1,000 gold. By the late evening, Jill headed straight back to her camp and went to sleep, exhausted but content with the day's sales. This morning was bright and clear, and Jill took a moment to savor the view, knowing it might be her last chance. If she earned enough money for a house, she planned to travel to Whiterun today. Riften looked exceptionally beautiful in the morning light. Jill set out to fish, hoping to catch something to sell alongside her armor. After a successful morning, she set up her stall and waited for customers. The first armor sold quickly, and Jill was thrilled. She even managed to sell a second one to the blacksmith, which was unusual since he had bought armor from her just a few days ago. The last armor was purchased by a guard. She also sold several less valuable items. Today, Jill earned nearly 1,200 gold and felt ready to move on. It was amusing to note that in Riften, no one ever seemed to buy helmets. As midday approached, Jill was in high spirits and decided to gather some supplies for her campfire. She needed leather but had run out. Fortunately, she had enough money to buy some and still had funds left for travel and the house. However, she couldn't find the blacksmith. It turned out he was home taking a break. While she waited, a courier approached and handed her a letter from the Jarl of Falkreath. The letter was an invitation for Jill to visit Falkreath and mentioned the possibility of becoming a Thane. The prospect intrigued her. When the blacksmith returned to work, Jill purchased the leather she needed and prepared her camping supplies. Ready to go, she quickly headed to the carriage driver and traveled to Whiterun. She arrived at nightfall, so she set up camp and rested, preparing for the important day ahead. Jill woke up brimming with excitement, but knowing it was still early to buy the house, she decided to go fishing first. There was one more item on her list that she couldn't shake from her mind. She needed to catch a pogfish for the fishery. As luck would have it, today was her day. She successfully caught the fish, ticking off the last item on her list. With her fishing completed, Jill headed to Whiterun. She stopped by the place where she had sold some of her first goods, feeling a wave of nostalgia as she reflected on her achievements. Proud of how far she had come, she quickly made her way to Dragon's Reach. At last, Jill purchased the house she had dreamed of. Overjoyed, she couldn't wait to see it in person. The thought of living so close to the beautiful city of Whiterun with its stunning architecture and welcoming atmosphere filled her with happiness. Upon arriving at her new home, Jill was delighted to find that it was even more charming than she had remembered. She couldn't wait any longer and stepped inside. The main room, with its cozy fireplace and dining table, had a warm and inviting ambience. The room was softly lit by the fire, and a single window casting gentle white light. The bedroom featured a large bed and two smaller ones, surrounded by flickering candles that added a touch of magic. There was also a small room designed for various supplies, complete with an alchemy table and an enchanting station. The room had a unique tall rounded design that gave it distinct character. In the basement, Jill found the armory, equipped with numerous cabinets for weapons and mannequins for displaying sets of armor. The space was perfectly suited to her needs. Sitting in a chair, Jill took a moment to reflect on her accomplishments. She had become a skilled hunter and purchased her own home. With her loyal companions by her side and beautiful memories to cherish, she felt fulfilled. Thoughts of her family and the farm she longed to return to filled her mind. She imagined walking through the fields again, perhaps even experimenting with planting neem roots there or starting her own small farm nearby. The idea of nurturing the land once more brought her a deep sense of peace and purpose. Feeling a bit tired but still fueled by her adventurous spirit, Jill decided to rest, set new goals, and prepare for the next chapter of her journey.